Montalvo Broadcasting Network. Support MBN, Montalvo Broadcasting Network, and shop with us over at Montalvo Store. Go to ebay.com and search in the advanced search. Type in Montalvo Store. Now support Montalvo Broadcasting Network. We have a wide array of books on conspiracy, apparel, and much more. Support your favorite radio station, Montalvo Broadcasting Network, by visiting Montalvo Store on ebay.com.
Tribal, primitive, rustic, Burning Man, punk rock, conceptual subculture, for the edgiest, most cutting-edge designs of jewelry today. Go to etsy.com/shop/conceptual subculture, or one word, either by going to Google or search Etsy, ETSY.com, and type in one word, conceptual subculture. You will find the hottest designs using natural stones with wire wrap rings, rough, raw, genuine, semi-precious gemstone jewelry, solid sterling silver, copper, leather, organite, bracelets, pendants, chokers, men's copper cups with sterling accents, eco-friendly, repurposed, original, one-of-a-kind design earrings. Support MBN by going to Conceptual Subculture on Etsy. Go to Antique Obsessions for the hottest in jewelry, antiques, repurposed, solid sterling silver, one-of-a-kind, handmade by Bruce and Jaja. Go to our Facebook, which is Antique Obsessions, or you can go to Etsy.com and go to Antique Obsessions, one word, or type it into your Google and find us there. Thanks.
If you're looking for the coolest apparel, jewelry, bracelets, earrings, the stylish and hippest clothing around, go to Poshmark.com. Poshmark.com at Anti-Culture. At Anti-Culture. The coolest, hippest apparel on the internet. Poshmark.com at Anti-Culture. Bruce Montalvo.
Continues to spread conspiracy theories.
Penchant for promoting bogus conspiracies as though they were fact.
About his conspiracy theory.
This is CNN, a network of China Broadcasting System.
Bruce Montalvo is the only radio talk show host that's not controlled. You're listening to the Bruce Montalvo Show.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special show, August 31st, 2019, a very special edition of the Bruce Montalvo Show. And we're going to go deep into the heart of the Wild West, and we're going to talk about the Templar treasure and Jesse James and the Wild West, and who better to join me to talk about this topic than legendary author. You know him, he wrote the famous book, The New World Order. Legendary author Ralph Epperson is on the line. Hello, Ralph. Thank you for being on the show.
Well, you're very kind, Bruce. Thank you very much for calling. Let's discuss some things.
That's right. Well, the Wild West. We're out here in the Wild West. The pistol smoke. You know, everybody's looking for the grave marked unknown next to Arch Stanton. From the folklore of the Wild West and the tumbleweeds. There's a lot of things people don't know, and that's the Masonic treasure, the Knights Templar treasure, and what Jesse James, the famous cowboy Jesse James, had to do with that. What's your take on that, Ralph? I know you've researched it extensively.
Yes, I read my first book about Jesse in 1973, and it opened up a whole new ballgame to me because Jesse James lived to be 103. He did not die in 1882. I can prove it. And between 1882 and when he finally killed off his alias in 1925, although he died in 1951, 26 years later, between those two dates, 1882 and 1925, Jesse James was a major player in this nation's past. He was called the wealthiest man in the world. He was called one of 100 who owned America. He was called one of 100 who rule America. Jesse James, under an alias.
Wow.
Now, we can start going back. I'll do this from memory. I did a 2-hour program yesterday. I've got a 4-hour DVD. It's on the internet called Jesse James Lived to be 103. I consider this to be the story of the century. This man was a major, major player in this nation's past. It was secret, but Ralph Epperson has dug it out by reading probably 50 books on the subject and various interviews with people who were related or even know something about this story. But he was a major player.
Right. And how did it all come to be? How did the whole folklore about the Templar treasure get intertwined with Jesse James?
He's not connected to the Templars. He's connected to the Knights of the Golden Circle.
I see.
That's the group that buried $6 billion of gold in the West and in the South. The Knights of the Golden Circle. Jesse became the leader, the president, the treasurer of that. He was in charge of it, and he used it to become a multi-billionaire. He was called, as I said, was called the wealthiest man in the world. Jesse James, the outlaw, they estimate by people who studied it until he allegedly died in 1882, when he stopped becoming an outlaw. When Jesse James, they estimate that the whole gang of 8 people stole probably $200,000. Divided by 8 is $25,000. You don't use $25,000 to become the wealthiest man in the world. So that's how I know he was involved with the Knights. The Knights of the Gold, the Knights of the Gold Circle buried $6 billion in gold. One of those gold sites, I believe, is the Lost Dutchman mine in north of Phoenix, actually north of Tucson, in the Superstition Mountains.
Wow. Oh, that's right in our backyard.
But I believe that Jesse knew where all of them were. In his book, the first book I read was called Jesse James was one of his names, and he identified something like 70 locations, but only like the Pine Ridge location or the so-and-so creek, which is not enough to find it, but he was telling us there were 70-some of them all over the globe. And I believe he knew where each one of them were, and I believe he went and got that gold and used it to become the wealthiest man in the world.
Wow.
And he did so he ended up in Montana as the in the copper industry, right at the right time when when Edison invented the light bulb using copper, and when the auto industry started by needing copper wire for their motors and engines, etc. So he was right in the middle of it, and because he used that money to become one of the wealthiest men in the world.
That's absolutely insane. Maybe he bought stock into Google because Google has a golden circle in the logo, right?
but I don't know that. Of course, he died.
Yeah.
He died in I'm just kidding. In 1951. Jesse the claim was not made that he died in 1882, but he killed off the alias of William Andrews Clark in 1925. And he went to Paris for 5 years, came back, and quietly lived until 1948, a newspaper in Lawton. Okay, very good. So he walked in and said, "I'm Jesse James," to the staff at the newspaper. They said, "It's impossible. Everybody knows he died in 1882." And he said, "Well, I'm the real one." So the newspaper assigned 2 reporters to this man's story. They checked it out the best they could. They wrote a little booklet. I've got a copy of it. And they claimed that they checked it out the best they could. And they headlined the story. It says, "Jesse James is alive in Lawton." And that went nationwide at least, probably even worldwide, because they named Jesse James. And people from all over the United States at least came to the city, and they were encouraged to meet with him privately, or at least maybe one at a time with others. But they talked to him, and there were 41 sworn affidavits with the notary public, which means you're liable for whatever it is, for perjury. They signed that he was the real Jesse James. And he answered questions that only the real Jesse would know, because he talked about when they were children, way back, 50, 60 years before, when they were children, and they both played or did something. One story held it that Jesse saved a young boy, and that boy was still alive. And he said to Jesse, "Do you remember me?" And he said, "Who? You're Tom Johnson." I'll make that up. "Oh, Tom, I remember you. I saved you in a swimming pool down around Kearney, Missouri." So he actually killed another man called Charlie Bigelow. So it was Mr. and Mrs. Bigelow with 2 children living in St. Joseph, Missouri, and he killed him for reasons that I had to dig up, and I found it. And I'm the only one that I know of that's ever covered this.
Wow.
But he killed this 2 Bigelows, and either the 2, I don't know whether the 2 Bigelows were 2 uncles or an uncle and a father, but in any event, one of them, apparently the son of one of them, or at least the nephew of both of them, I can't say, I don't know. But he decided to seek vengeance on this man who killed these 2 men, and he found out it was Jesse, and he said, "I'm not going to take Jesse on." So he came and joined the gang, and the first robbery they got involved with was the Northfield, Minnesota bank robbery. And actually nine member of the gang. He was
Yes.
9. Yeah, it was 8 plus 1. I'm going to identify Bigelow was the 1, and I'm going to point out that the 8 rode into the city, and I believe Charlie Bigelow was assigned the responsibility of not letting people go across the bridge to get involved with the preventing the robbery.
Wow.
So, and when he heard the shooting, Bigelow ran and hid out in St. Joseph, Missouri, and because the 2 men of the 8 were killed, and when someone shouted out they're robbing the bank, and with that, people all over the city, at least 8 of them, started producing rifles, shooting them. This is unprecedented, as far as I know, in the robbery of banks. But these people they knew in advance.
Right.
And the guy shouted out loudly so everybody in the street could hear him, "They're robbing the bank." And so people grabbed their rifle or their pistol and started firing as the robbers exited. And so 2 of them were killed there. Later on, 1 more was killed. That's 3. The 3 younger brothers were all injured, and 1 was died, and 2 were captured and went to prison. And Jesse and Frank escaped without injury. And I don't understand how that was, because they were shooting anyone that looked like an outlaw.
Wow.
Anyway, that's when it changed. And so then when he figured out that Charlie Bigelow had notified the city, probably the Pinkerton Detective Agency,
That's
he
right.
notified them that they were going to go to Northfield. So the Pinkertons went there and notified the sheriff or the county, wherever it is, or maybe sent someone up there and said, "Get prepared because they're coming." So now he killed off Charlie Bigelow. He told Mrs. Bigelow, the widow, after the man was dead, he shot him in the barn, brought him in with another man, brought him into the house, and Mrs. Bigelow screamed out, "You killed my husband." She said, "Yes, and I want you to call the sheriff And when the sheriff comes in, I want you to tell the sheriff that the dead man on the floor is Jesse James.
Wow.
And Jesse gave her $15,000, and she took the money and to raise her two children.
So Jesse James
$15,000 was a fortune.
He faked his death.
He staged the death, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Bob Ford never shot him. Bob Ford was a cousin. Bob and Charlie Ford were cousins to Jesse James. And he worked it out with them. You take the blame. Jesse actually gave Bob Ford the pistol that he used to shoot Charlie Bigelow. So in the event they somehow got the bullet out, they could test the gun and find out that it was the gun that shot. So Jesse gave Bob Ford the pistol, but Bob Ford did not shoot him. Jesse James shot him, but the gun was transferred from Jesse to Bob Ford. And when Bob Ford testified and was actually tried for the murder, he used the gun or produced the gun or whatever it was. That started Jesse down. He knew the world believed he was dead, but he wasn't. He lived on until 1951.
Wow. So he fooled the world, and that's one of the first conspiracy theories right out of the Wild West.
Yes. Well, it's only one, of course. The man called himself J. Frank Dalton. Now, the J stood for Jesse. The Frank was his brother, Frank, older brother by, I think, 4 years. And Dalton was the maiden name of his mother. Now, people have claimed that Zerelda was the mother of both Jesse and Frank, that her name was Cole. Zerelda Cole was maiden, but Jesse knew that she was a Dalton. She and her older sister were born Daltons, and apparently the father, I don't know why they did this, but the parents, or maybe one of them died, and they put the two children in a nunnery, and the nuns adopted them out to a family called Cole. So that's how her maiden name became Zerelda Cole, but it was really Zerelda Dalton, which means that she was connected somehow, I don't know how, to the whole Dalton gang, a comparable gang to the Jesse James gang.
Wow.
See, this is stuff we don't know about.
Oh, man.
I'm telling you, it's true.
Oh, I hear you, Ralph. It's so researched. Have you heard of a take, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? They had Jesse James as a time traveler. Have you ever heard anything of that nature, that he could have been a time traveler?
Well, you could say he did travel time because he lived to be 103.
Ah, I see. There's
He was
something
born
to
in
it.
1847 and died in 1951, I guess before his 104th birthday.
Wow. And
I'm going to fill in some gaps very quickly from memory only, but they're part of my book and my DVD. The name that he chose was William Andrews Clark. The county of, William Andrews Clark used this gold money, part of it, to build a railroad from Los Angeles to Salt Lake City. Jesse owned mines and water companies and playgrounds and things and railroad. He's built the only privately financed railroad in the entire nation. One man. Most people borrowed money or created stockholders or corporations or partnerships. Jesse did it all by himself, which means he used the money from the Knights of the Golden Circle and used it to finance his railroad. Well, between Las Vegas and Los Angeles was a little tent city called Las Vegas. It was nothing more than maybe a grocery store and a couple of saloons, because the miners were up in the mountains mining, and they'd come down for the weekends and party it up. So Jesse bought a ranch with 10,000 acres in it and water rights because he needed steam water for his steam engines in 1900. So the old town, if you've ever been to Las Vegas, You go down to the old town, they call it, or maybe I'm calling it that, but it's the old part of town was where the thing started. Jesse James was the one who laid out the city streets. I found a copy of the map that he used to lay them out. And if you pick that up and show it, lay it down or lay the map of Las Vegas downtown down on top of it, it's identical. Wow. In other words, Jesse James became the founder of Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, because of what he did for Las Vegas, the legislature, I think it was still a territory, but they decided to take a long, narrow county called Lincoln County, divide it in half, put Reno in the top part and Las Vegas in the south, and called it Clark County. Named after William Andrews Clark, the alias of Jesse James.
There you go. It's hidden in plain view right there in front of you. Amazing.
You betcha.
Amazing.
I went to there's a museum. It's on the road to Boulder, and I drove over there and went to the museum. And as you walk in above you, there on the outside of the building, it says Clark County Museum. So I walked in, I said, how much do you people know about Clark? We don't know anything about him. I said, your county's named after him. Who was he? Well, I don't really know. So I said, here's the best book we got. There was one short paragraph about William Andrews Clark in the book. It was all a solicitor story of what they've done, and now they got this and that, and miners in the banks and wherever it was. One short paragraph. The reason was Clark didn't want anyone to know that he was Jesse James. Yeah. So he didn't release information. He just said he ran his business out of Montana as William Andrews Clark. There was only one picture allegedly of him, so people didn't even know what he looked like.
Oh, it's brilliant.
This man, he concealed it so well.
Right.
Now, last comment on that subject. No one in Las Vegas wants to know this story. I called the Chamber of Commerce, and I said, I am able to prove, documented, that William Andrews Clark was the real Jesse James.
Well, you get crickets
and I said,
back.
you people need to know that. Then you could build a casino around the Old West and have Jesse shoot, and have the Younger show up, and the Dalton gang and the Mother and etc.
Right. Didn't the Mafia totally take that over, though? I mean, at one point there must have been some transfer of power, right?
Well, the only thing that he owned was the downtown area. Probably sold it to maybe the Mafia, wherever it was.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to point out that they don't want to know. And I tried to get them to listen to my DVD 4 hours long, and they didn't want to know.
It's like
so
bullet
that's
teeth.
the end of the story.
You know, Ralph, now I see a lot of things just popping out, like, from the movies. They have this little lizard run around like a sheriff, and he's running around. It's called Rango. He's looking for water, and then he runs into Las Vegas. So I can't help but think that maybe Jesse James, there's a snake also in that story, and he's like a Jesse James character. So I mean, it's subliminal, right? Disney lets you know.
Wait! What? This was a movie you saw?
Yeah. It reminds me of Jesse James' story. It was based off it slightly. I know it's based off of Hunter S. Thompson, but it's called Rango. It's a little chameleon. He becomes a little sheriff, and he stumbles. He's walking through the desert, and he's in search for water, and he runs into Las Vegas.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
And it's called, would you spell the name of Shango?
Yeah, Rango, R-A-N-G-O, Rango, like
Rango.
Yeah,
okay,
like Rambo.
I've not heard about that.
It's a cute little movie. It's kind of scary. I think they talk about eating human flesh a little bit too much in it. But
I want to tell you a quick story that'll confirm my whole conclusion of what I talked about.
Yes.
I take phone orders, especially in the past, because the bookstores weren't normally carrying it, and they called a publisher, and that was me. So I got a phone call from a young man. I'm going to make up his first name. Let's call him Brett. Brett Clark. So I wrote it down on an order form, and I wrote down his name, and I got his address and his city. And he lived in Utah, which those people up there in Utah are very into genealogy.
No, yeah.
So I said to him, I said, "You're a Clark by generations." "Yes, that's true." I said, "Yeah, you weren't adopted." No, I'm a Clark." I said, "Would you mind answering some questions?" He said, "No, go ahead." I said, "Do you have a William Andrews Clark in your family up above you?" Meaning a grandfather degree. "Yes, like we do." "Well, you're confirming that a Clark, William Andrews Clark, is in your bloodline?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Was he hold on, Jesse, William Andrews Clark was a United States Senator for one term, 1901 to 1907, from Montana as a Democrat. He sat in the Senate of the United States for 6 years."
Wow.
And that was his alias. He said, "Yes, that's." I said, "Did Clark build a railroad?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Was Clark County named for him?" "Yes." I said, "Oh man, we need to talk." He said, "Well, we don't talk about that a lot." And so I said, "Okay, well, I'll send you your catalog." I guess I called him a little while later. This is the clincher. Listen to what happened. I called him by pure coincidence, not coincidence. I called him by just called him, and I said, "How are you, member?" "Oh yeah, Ralph, how are you?" So I said, "We're talking about this story." I asked him whether or not, he said something about the Clarks have reunions. And I said, "Man, you tell me when. I want to go there and put up a sign in the table saying, 'Let's talk about William Andrews Clark.'" He said, "Oh, no, none of us talk about it." Now listen to me. I heard a shriek from on my end of the phone. It sounded like a woman, like that. That's the best I could do. So he put the phone down and walked away. I heard it clip, 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 clip. I heard some voices. Then he came back to the phone. I said, "What's the matter?" "That was my wife." I said, "Is she okay?" He said, "Yes, but let me tell you what happened." She was looking into a book on Jesse James and found a picture of Zerelda James, the mother. Now let me briefly explain that Zerelda James and her husband Samuel James he was a doctor. He's not James, but he was the husband. So he was a stepfather. They were in the house with their young son. I've forgotten his name, but he was like 7 or 9 years old. I don't remember exactly, but anyway, he was young. So the Pinkerton Detective Agency took a bomb and threw it into the house to force Jesse and Frank out so they could capture them. Wow. The Pinkertons were hired by the railroads to nail them, get them, throw them in jail, and get the money back that they could.
Right.
So they decided to try to spook them out by a bomb. They were not in the house. Zerelda grabbed a broom and tried to brush it into the fireplace so she could burn the smoke up and not burn the house down. It exploded. It blew off her arm from the elbow down through the wrist.
Oh, dear God.
Nothing. She had a stub. Forgive me, it's the best I can describe it. And the little boy was killed.
Oh, my God.
Now, that's very important. Let me finish why. So I said to her, she was looking at the picture of Zerelda Cole with one arm, and the picture of it everybody uses in every book is only one of them, and she's got a piece of, like a napkin, black napkin, a black dress over her arm that's missing. So that's the one picture everybody knows, and that's the picture this wife saw. And she said she shrieked out that Zerelda Cole looked exactly like the Grandma Clark, the mother of William Andrews Clark, the whole family knew about.
Oh, my
And I said, well, it could be the two women, in older photographs of that time. Fuzzy said, let me tell you. I said, just go slow. I said, Zerelda Cole lost her arm when the Pinkerton Detective Agency blew up her house. He said, Grandma Clark lost her arm in an accident as well. I don't know what happened. And I said, Zerelda's little boy, 9-year-old, I don't remember, I'm not calling him William Clark, William James also was killed. Grandma's 9-year-old son was killed in the same accident as the mother.
Wow.
Now stop and think about this. This is direct confirmation that William Andrews Clark was Jesse James. because Zarelda was the mother, proven by blood, and she looked exactly like Grandma Clark, who gave birth to William Andrews Clark.
Oh, yeah, it must have left them pale as a ghost.
The best evidence.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It must have left them pale as a ghost when they made that realization.
He was stunned as I was. I said, my God, do you understand what you just said? You've confirmed that Jesse James was William Andrews Clark, as I know.
Insanity.
And unfortunately, I lost this young man's phone number. I searched. I called every Clark I could find in Utah. And I did a search of the white pages in every town I could find in Utah.
Maybe
tried to find him, but I couldn't find him.
Maybe the Pinkerton police is still up to no good. You know, the Pinkertons they became a security organization. I think they do security now, but they did. Weren't they doing Secret Service work back in the day?
That's correct. Right.
Yeah. So they're the government.
After the Civil War, right?
Yeah. Wow.
But there's an interesting comment we should make at that point. Jesse James, under the name of William Andrews Clark, became a 33rd degree Mason.
That's right.
He became the leader. They call him the Grand something.
The Grand
leader of the Masonic Lodge in Montana. And so he was a high-ranking 33rd degree Mason. Pinkerton was also a Mason.
Uh-huh.
Masons take oaths not to cause, when there's brothers in trouble, they don't turn him in, they don't capture him. So Pinkerton never did capture Jesse or Frank, who were both Masons, because of an oath he took as a Mason. Both Pinkerton and Jesse took as Clark. So that's why Jesse was allowed to keep robbing the banks. Isn't that an interesting aside?
No, my God.
I can't find that in any books that I read on the subject, probably 50 of them.
Well, that's the inside baseball, Ralph. I don't want that getting out of the ballpark. You know, it makes sense now. You know, I drive around Tombstone, and of course, you know about the OK Corral, and you look,
I love that.
You look right across from the OK Corral, the historic site. Still to this day, there's an old magistrate, an old Masonic hall right there, the Solomon Hall. So I mean, what do they know? What do they know that really happened? You know, during those shootouts. You know, just they become tall tales by the Masons.
Let me tell you what I do know about that. I want you to try to remember the movie with Kurt Russell. That movie they called Tombstone.
Tombstone, yeah, of course.
I want you, if you can remember, after the search started on the Cowboys, there was a scene of the two men. I think there were three men. They were stopped as an oasis. There was Wyatt was down by the creek, or standing there looking at the creek, and they said, "Where's Wyatt?" They say, and I think it was Doc Holliday said he's down there walking on water. He joked about it. The camera zoomed in on one of the two men that were helping them, and he had a necklace around a square and compass from the Masonic Lodge.
Uh-huh.
Now, there were, I don't know, but I suspect that Wyatt Earp was a Mason, but I can't prove it. But
they make all the mines that are there. I mean, that's how they made so much money, Ralph. I mean to cut you off, but I see how they're in control of the mines, the turquoise, everything that's there, all the natural resources. And it doesn't seem to be a Masonic hall that's not too far from main locations like that.
Well, let's talk about that. It was named after the founder of Tombstone. I can't think. It's funny. I had the name a minute ago. Now I can't think of it.
Oh man.
Something Shefflin. Somebody Shefflin. Edward Shefflin. That hospital, that building, 2 stories, was on the main street. Main Street is Alex Street is the main street of Tombstone, where all the buildings were.
Right.
It was across on the next northeast-west street. I think it was called, I don't remember the name, but that's where it is. It survived both of the fires. For years, there was no connection to the Masonic Lodge on that building. But probably 5, 6, maybe, I don't know how long ago it was, above the door leading up to the second floor, there was a wooden panel. And that's when it said that the Eastern Star was meeting in that building. So that was the first connection to Shefflin maybe being a Mason, or at least the Masons somehow were using that hall for their meetings upstairs. Now, when you drive on that street, I think it's called Fremont, I don't remember, but it's actually the old highway that you used to go from Tucson to Bisbee.
Right.
So when you drive down on that street going, going east, in big bold letters, probably 10 feet high, it says so-and-so lodge number so-and-so, the Masonic Lodge. So they're advertising the fact. Now there's one more part of the story. I went to the, last time I was in, maybe 2 or 3 times ago, I walked into the Boot Hill Cemetery, and there was a man dressed in period costume like a cowboy behind a counter, and he was asking you to sign in. So I signed in, and I said, what do you know about the tomb? He said, I know a great deal. And so I asked him about I had a question of the pictures of Big Nose Kate. There are 2 women who have claimed to be pictures of Big Nose Kate. And I said, do you have any theory as to which one is the truth? He said, yes. So then later on I talked to him. I said, listen, I see you sell a lot of books on the Old West at the Boot Hill. He said, yes, we do. I said, well, I've written a book about Jesse James. Hey, I said, would you sell it? He said, brilliant. We'd sell it. We sell all sorts of books on the Old West. So I brought 2 copies. Now listen, this is very interesting. The book tells the reader that Jesse James, under the name of William Andrews Clark, was a 33rd degree Mason, and I footnoted to prove it. So I gave him the book to read. And he said, I'll give 1 copy to the man who is called the historian for the town of Tombstone. You might remember there's outside of the city, as you drive in from the north, there's a big billboard, and there's 4 guys there. These are local people portraying Doc and
right.
Wyatt and Virgil and the and the man portraying Wyatt Earp is this man, this historian. And they gave the book to him.
Okay.
And I never heard from them. They didn't want to sell the book.
Oh, of course not.
In other words, we're not supposed to know about the Masonic connection in that town.
Ah, that's right. Yeah, but it's right out in the open. But you're not supposed to talk about it. Oh, my goodness.
I'll tell you, that little, you have to look very hard, but the next time you watch the movie with Kurt Russell as Wyatt, when they get to that scene where they're around the little creek, look at the guy who's the first one see. Yeah. They zero in on him. He's cleaning his rifle, I think. He's got a necklace around his neck.
That's right. No, I'm familiar. I'm familiar with that scene. I've seen it.
Okay, well, next time you see it, see if you can see it. I see it very clearly now. It just popped out at me probably one day. I love that. I've probably seen that movie so many times I could actually be Wyatt Earp.
That's right. I'm your Huckleberry, baby. Come on.
Yes, I know.
Ralph, this is great stuff. We're coming towards the end of the program here, but I wanted to just touch up on the book that you're most famous for, the New World Order book. You know, it just every year that goes by, it seems that this book is becoming more factual and more factual. You're seeing it unfold right on the TV, the news. Everything you were talking about in that book is now happening before our eyes. What do you see happening from that book today?
Thank you. I wrote that book in 1989. It took a while. It was late 1989. It published the date on it, 1990. And I said the New World Order is coming. It'll be here on the year January 1st, the year 2000. Now, I'm not a prophet. I'm not I make predictions. I was quoting their own literature. That event was supposed to happen on the 1st of January, the year 2000. It didn't happen. And even now, 19 years later, I cannot tell you why. I don't know. But I do know this. In The Unseen Hand, my first book, I talked about how this conspiracy changes its future when they're exposed. It's a conspiracy, and they have to operate in secret. When someone exposes them, sometimes they change their plans.
That's right.
Now, whether or not it was me, because I wrote the first book, The New World Order, in 1990. So whether it was me that did it, like that book was a big seller, it still is selling.
Oh, yeah,
but
they love
it's being
it.
sold in now seven or eight different foreign nations.
Wow, congratulations.
And so is The Unseen Hand, my first book as well. Those two books are being sold all over the globe. I only know about 8 of them, but I think people could publish it in Bangladesh or something, and I wouldn't know about it. So who knows how many people are reading that book now.
We got to go break some pinkies out there in Bangladesh. They're stealing your money.
Yeah, try and find
What's
out.
going on?
See if my book's being published. I don't even know where that is.
But yeah, it's so prophetic, though. I mean, a lot of the things I see, I mean, from the agenda to over-sexualize not just the masses, but children in particular, and the trans homosexual agenda. You said that they were talking in talks in the 60s. Remember that they were going to make it the big issue. It was going to be all over the place. And I mean, that is what the world today consists of. iPhones and all of this debauchery.
Yes, I'm aware of that, and I'm quite aware that my book is still the classic. I've read other books entitled The New World Order. They cover 10 or 15% of it.
Yeah.
I got the whole story.
Yeah.
I made a statement yesterday. I'll make it again today since we're running out of time. If you do not know the Masons, you do not know American history.
Right.
In my story on Jesse James, my DVD, I read a book published by the Masonic Lodge in which the man admits the Masons assassinated 4 of our presidents. He put it in writing. By the Masons are officially admitting they killed 4 of our presidents.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to point out it's actually 5 because they were directly involved in the assassination of John Kennedy.
Yeah, 5
of our presidents because they've been killed by the Masons. So I'm telling you, you don't know American history until you know who the Masons are.
You know, you were pretty
They're
close.
important.
You were pretty close. You said it was January 1st, 2000. And because you might have exposed them that year, I mean, they switched 2001 September 11th, the next year, for the big event.
Well, yeah, but the New World Order is still not here.
I know.
How much more time we got?
Just give it all you got. Just let me know what you got to say.
Very quickly, the New World Order is already in place in China in the communes.
That's right.
There's marriage, but no family.
That plan's coming here.
Private property. There's no religion, no God. You eat, you live on the farm, you work on the farm. There's no meat eating. You don't raise your children. The commune, the only government they've got is who they decide somehow who's going to, if 4 people are going to die, they put them in what they call happy homes, and they give them shots, and within 2 weeks they're all dead.
Unbelievable.
They kill the old people, and then they decide, well, there's 4 less workers, so we'll let 4 people have children. So all the married men live together, all the married women live together. You're not allowed to live together in a house with your wife or your children. The children are raised by the commune. The New World Order is already in place in China.
Yeah, no, and just to finish up with this, China's working with Google, and Google is the U.S. Army. They and the Pentagon. They don't want anything to do with Google right now because they're so embedded with the Chinese. I mean, they could totally hack our systems. I mean, it's crazy. But before we go, Ralph, great show. Let my listeners know where they could find your great books, your legendary books, The New World Order, everything on Jesse James you talked about. Let them know where they can support you.
Yes, I have a website, as most people do, www, of course, Ralph, R-A-L-P as in Petunia, H, R-A-L-P-H, and then there's a dash up on your upper right-hand corner, dash, Epperson, E as in Edward, P as in Peter, E-R-S-O-N, Ralph-Epperson.com. You can go there. Don't have to buy anything. Just go there and browse and see how serious this problem is. This country's in serious trouble because people want it in serious trouble.
Yeah.
And that's what the New World is all about. We're being taken someplace. And our founding fathers did it to us. Wait till you see this develop. If you... I don't know how much more time I got. But anyway, I would go there. Just go there and browse. If you want to buy, by the way, you can also call
Ralph.
me. My phone number's listed. Call me at your convenience. I answer the phone. I'm single, no wife, no children. I answer the phone. I'm the only one living here. I'll answer the phone. Let's talk and I'll answer your questions.
Ralph, thank you so much for being on. I know you're out here in my backyard in Arizona. I'm going to have to buy you a beer, man. I'm going to have to meet up with you and see how you're doing.
Let's talk. I don't know where you live, but let's talk. Call me off the air.
Not too far. I'm right in your backyard. That's Arizona. I'm laying my hat out here in Tucson, just like you. You know, I'm out here in the... But that was Ralph Epperson. We're gonna be signing off, folks. Great show. So hope you had your Spurs on. It was a wild one. We'll be back broadcasting Mondays, 8 p.m. Mountain Time, Fridays, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, Spreaker.com, TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Bruce Montalvo, at The Bruce Montalvo Show, at Bruce Montalvo on Facebook. Sayonara.
Montalvo Broadcasting Network.